Sleigh bells in the snow. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right, we're getting in the Christmas spirit here at the Reality Check with Charles Butler. Hope you enjoyed that. That was the Drifters and Clyde McFeather. For those of you who didn't recognize that version of White Christmas, Clyde McFeather and the Drifters. That's a name out of the past. Jerry McLaughlin is going to be joining us today, along with my good friend Jerry Corsi. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jerry. You may not be aware of Jerry, but Jerry is kind of like my man behind the scenes. He provides us with a number of guests. Jerry's a movie producer, among other things, but he's a movie producer, a publicist. He's president of Moving Visions Entertainment, Clean TV, and the publicity firm Special Guests. Where are we? As a talk show agent for 30 years, McLaughlin has provided publicity service to numerous motion picture television companies, provided expert guests to popular shows. Welcome to the show, Jer. Where is Jerry? This guy. See, he demands that his guests be timely and that I be timely getting his guest on the show. Okay? And then he doesn't show. Amazing. I love it. I love it. Let me call Jerry. I just talked to Jerry. And I'm going to have two Jerrys on. Jerry Corsi and Jerry McLaughlin. How about that? How about that? Amazing. I love it. But Jerry's going to talk to us about the elections. He's been spending a lot of time with the Trump folks and other folks talking about these elections. So we're going to get busy here. Jerry may have had something come up, but he usually would call. You hear the phone ringing in the background. That's McLaughlin.
Sorry, we missed you. Please.
Yeah, that's McLaughlin. So anyway, hey, what I'm going to talk about today is something that people aren't talking about, and of course, the Giuliani team was in Arizona today, and that was really interesting. For those of you who haven't had a chance to look at the feed or pay any attention to what was going on, it was really interesting in that Giuliani basically called out the legislature to do their job. And the Arizona legislators, I think, are going to do that. The legislators, of course, are going to do that. Let's see here. So listen, it is going to be interesting. I can tell you that. It's going to be interesting. I'm sitting here as we speak, looking at a couple of things, and let's see here. So let's see. Jerome hasn't called in. So Giuliani, of course, is saying to the legislators, "Look, do your job. Just do your job. I don't want anything special. I just want you guys to reach out and do your job. Do the job that you were elected to do by the Constitution of Arizona." And that's really all that you can ask for, in my opinion. That's all that you can ask for, is for the legislators to do their job. So Rudy, I love Rudy. He starts talking about one of my favorite topics, of course, illegal aliens. And he goes into this big thing about illegal aliens and how many illegal aliens voted. He said, well, how many of these people are in the country? And then they have this special thing in Arizona that if you can prove that you have a bank account or a driver's license, not a birth certificate, but a driver's license, which they hand out in some states to illegals, right? Or a utility bill. Anybody who lives in here can get a utility bill. You can get off an airplane and go rent an apartment and you got a utility bill, right? Not that you're a citizen. So Giuliani is just all over this, and so I think the Arizona legislature and legislators are going to rule not to certify their votes, their election. If they do, that's going to take an interesting tack. We got a guy coming on tomorrow or Wednesday. I'm not sure which. Perk's going to talk about that with us, and we'll see where that goes. Let's see here. But this is what Giuliani had to say about illegals voting. Listen to this real careful. Wow. I mean, this is amazing how corrupt the voting system is. Now, we're not talking about changing votes right now. We're just talking about people who are eligible to vote, people who are eligible to vote. Uh, it's, the vote has been corrupted. The vote has been, this whole vote, the vote in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, the votes need to be thrown out. I'm telling you. Bad, 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 real bad. Okay. So, man, so this is Giuliani presenting data to the Arizona legislators who are in charge of the election. And then there's a lady who comes on later in this clip, and she talks about what she's going to do in terms of calling forth the legislatures to do what they need to do so that they can get a subpoena and do this investigation. Where's the time? Where's the money coming from? Those are going to be key issues. Let's listen. Wow, they haven't been researched enough. And then as the hearing goes on, they go, well, we really can't initiate a hearing on our own. We have to be presented with fraud. We have to be presented with something to investigate. Seriously, swear to God, swear to God that is what has transpired here, right? So I don't know about you, but it's just amazing to me. Amazing, amazing. Uh, all we can do, all we can do at this particular time is to take time out, pray that Donald Trump prevails. Now, my next guest at later in the show, my next guest is going to tell us that Donald Trump is going to win and how President Trump's going to win. He's very clear that President Trump's going to win, and I hope he's right. Dr. Jerome Corzing. And for a lot of you out there, Jerome will not need any introduction. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about something that something else that affects elections that people aren't talking about, and that Democrats certainly support, and that is illegals being here in our country being counted. So here in Chicago, we must have, I think the number was anywhere from 500,000 to no, I'm sorry, 300,000 to 800,000 illegals in Chicago. That's a lot of damn people. Now, our metropolitan area is about 5.3 million people. So you throw in this say 500,000 illegal people. So a tenth of our metropolitan area is illegals taking jobs from people, putting pressure on our services, putting pressure on our schools. It's amazing. But Democrats seem to think that's okay. That's okay that poor whites and poor blacks in America are pushed out by these new brown people coming here who work so hard. They will do anything until they become citizens, you stupid moron. All immigrants work hard until they become Americans, and that's when we get the 40-hour work week and anything over that is overtime, and we get the nice home, and we enjoy a great life here in America, regardless of your social economic status in America. It's better than anywhere else, given the same opportunities. I mean, when you talk about Africa, for instance, 3/4 of Africans do not have electricity or sewage systems or plumbing and running water indoors. Today in India, people still don't have toilet paper. They don't have good sewage systems. They have a poor infrastructure. They have these people called rag pickers. Look them up. They're called rag pickers. A rag picker these are rags that are used for people to wipe their behind. What if we bought a toilet paper manufacturing company and opened it in India? You'd be rich overnight, I tell you. Anyway, let me get back to the census. The census. Okay, so I'm going to get back to the census. So that is at play right now by Democrats because they want to what? Take over. They want to jam the system. They want to jam the system up. So today, the Supreme Court is hearing arguments on a question that goes to the heart of American democracy. Must the government count everyone living in the country, whether legal or illegal, whether a citizen or not a citizen, in the census tolls that the House of Representatives uses to reallocate its 435 seats among the states? Interesting, huh? I think so. I think it's fascinating. Now, for more than 2 centuries, the answer has been yes, because we had control of our borders. We lost control of our borders. We have 30 million illegal people in this country, according to the foreign minister of Mexico. 30 million. So both Article 1 of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment require that the House seats be allocated according to the whole number of persons in each state. You know, they phased out the 3/5 of a person, 3/5 of a person ruling that, or rationale in the Constitution, that's how slaves were counted, 3/5 of a person for allocation purposes. The phrase that's long been read to include all the nation's residents, the whole number for a person, whole number. Goes back to, again, 3/5 of a person, that was the compromise with the founding fathers to count slaves. So whether American citizens, foreigners admitted here on visas, or immigrants with no documentation at all, they were counted as whole persons, whole numbers. Okay? But President Trump signaled in a memorandum last summer that he intends to exclude unauthorized immigrants from the 2020 census totals that he hopes to send to the House next year for use in reapportionment. Hello. I love it. I don't know when this ruling is going to come down, though, but because they don't say in the article. But the federal courts have ruled in 3 separate lawsuits that Mr. Trump lacks the authority, saying in one case that the question is not even close, but the Supreme Court will have the final say. And here's a rundown of some of the basics of the issue. Very important issue. Reallocation. Remember, that's what the 3/5 clause was about. Reallocation of the House of Representatives. So first and foremost, the allocation of political power. That's one of the what's at stake. No precise count of unauthorized immigrants exists. So Mr. Trump has ordered the Census Bureau to come up with an estimate. But many experts put that number at 11 million. Well, they've been using that number 11 million for over 20 years. There are way more than 11 million illegals here in America. Way more. We know that. You know, the Center for Immigration Studies. I think they conclude now they had to move off that 11 million number. And I remember I got in a big argument with the president over there, and he kept talking about 11 million. Based on what, dude? People are coming across the border every night. You know, we've been talking about 11 million. He and I have been talking about 11 million for 5 or 6 years. So many are concentrated in states with large immigrant populations like New York, Texas, and in states like California and Florida, where undocumented immigrants also are in demand for farm work. There's no farm work here in Illinois. We have a bunch of illegals here. They drive commercial trucks. They drive UPS trucks. They drive FedEx trucks. They work on construction jobs, taking jobs away from who? Americans. So they go, some of those states and a few others could lose House seats if unauthorized immigrants were excluded from the census count. Conversely, some states with few unauthorized immigrants could pick up some seats. For instance, Alabama appears to set to lose one of its 7 House seats in the next reapportionment. The state is arguing in a separate lawsuit that undocumented immigrants are illegally depriving its citizens of fair representation. No question. Absolutely no question. Many representatives feel that the restricting the count to citizens tends to benefit states that are rural and Republican at the expense of those that are urban and house illegals and attract illegals. And they build schools for illegals. They give social security benefits to who? Illegals. Any Democrat, they need to be punched in the damn nose. I tell you. They are traitors to this country just by virtue of their beliefs. But the Republican Party their gains are probably would be small, most say, given the big Republican states like Texas would be among those that could be affected by some change. Um, what are the legal arguments for and against excluding unauthorized immigrants from the reapportionment totals? Well, the Justice Department is very clear. Let's see here. Justice Department is very clear. Okay, am I on my thing here? Yeah. Okay. The Justice Department is very clear. They argued that federal law gives the president the discretion to make policy judgments about whom the census counts. That discretion includes setting the definition of an inhabitant or usual resident of the United States, two terms that have historically been used to describe people who qualify to be counted in the census: an inhabitant and a usual resident. Those are the two terms, not illegal alien or illegal immigrant. But the president's lawyers say federal law gives virtually unfettered discretion to the Commerce Department, the federal agency that oversees the Census Bureau, to decide what data is used in counting individual residents of states. Now, the opponents of the president's plan say that in 230 years of history, the history's been on their side. Well, never in America's history have we allowed our borders to be invaded by foreign people. Never before in history have we allowed people who are outlaws, who are criminals. It is against the law. It is a felony in some cases, and certainly misdemeanors. I should say misdemeanors in most cases, and felonies in other cases, of when people come across the border illegally. That's just a fact. That's the law. So non-citizens have been counted in every census and used in every reapportionment of the House since the very first census was conducted in 1790, claims these people. But in the nation's early history, a substantial share of the population had migrated from other countries, and for many decades thereafter, some states actively recruited foreigners to provide labor and boost political representation, like the Irish, who some historians claim, sent 70% of their population to America. I know it's a lot of them. The framers of the Constitution elected to exclude some people from being counted. Indians, not taxed. So if you were an Indian and you were not taxed, like living on a reservation, which is a sovereign nation, and most notoriously the decision to count someone who was enslaved, the 3/5 of a person clause, but left non-citizens intact. The drafters of the 14th Amendment debated whether to count all immigrants for apportionment purposes and elected in the end to do so. Interesting. The opponents also say that the Constitution explicitly requires that the decennial census, meaning every 10 years, be used for reapportionment, and that Mr. Trump has no authority to deduct unauthorized immigrants from that census before sending population totals to the House. Wow. Well, federal courts have ruled so far, and Jerry's getting ready to come on here shortly, that they ruled against the White House, saying, that on varying grounds, in some cases, they barred the Commerce Department from sending a count of unauthorized immigrants to the White House. The California court ruled that excluding non-citizens violated both federal laws and the Constitution. In New York, a panel of 3 judges two appointed by Bush, one by Obama, said that the merits of the parties' dispute are not particularly close or complicated. The panel said federal law requires the government to produce a single set of population figures for reapportionment, making Trump's plan for a separate estimate of unauthorized immigrants moot, M-O-O-T, moot, non-existent. But the judges also said that so long as they reside in the United States, illegal aliens qualify as persons in a state as Congress used those words. And because of that, the judges said that there was no need to take up the question of whether the president's plan had violated the Constitution. Interesting, because it had already been settled law. So they, even possible, is it possible to count unauthorized immigrants in the country? So on the census form, President Trump wanted a question added, are you a citizen? In an attempt to come up with a tally, but the Supreme Court ruled in 2019 that the Commerce Department had failed to offer a plausible explanation why the question was needed. Excuse me. Other than to find out who's a citizen, who's not a citizen. On the president's order, though, a census task force was working to provide a way to count anyway, mostly by shifting through federal and state records to show conclusively who is a citizen and by implication who is not. See, Barbara Jordan was very clear about this issue of immigration and citizenship. She said those who should get in should be allowed in, and those who shouldn't be here should be deported. They should be made to leave. She didn't leave any gray area. She said the law is very clear. She's absolutely right. It appears, though, unlikely that the Census Bureau will produce an estimate of unauthorized immigrants by December 31st of this year, the statutory deadline for sending population totals to the White House. Indeed, the Census Bureau officials told the Commerce Department this month that the 2020 census itself could not be completed until after Mr. Trump leaves office in January 20. The Bureau's experts, nonetheless, are racing to complete a count of unauthorized immigrants for delivery to Mr. Trump early or mid-January. Yeah, so he's still the president. I don't care how much people, condemn him and talk about a president-elect and all that stuff. Trump's still president. Yes, sir. Thank God. He's still president. So that's who he is. Love him. Hey, but you haven't heard that story, right? You haven't heard that this case is being argued in front of the Supreme Court. One of the biggest cases that's going to affect, how we vote, how we're represented in the House of Representatives for a long time. And it's a good thing that we're paying attention to this now. It really is. I am so sleepy. I guess because I didn't sleep well last night. Didn't sleep at all last night. But man, that's something. Hope you guys are paying attention. Hope that you understand that this is no joke. This is about reapportionment. This is about compromising your vote. This is about compromising your representation in House. And people are kind of, blasé. What's the big deal? Well, it is a big deal. I want to segue back to the Chicago Tribune. Okay, we have Jerry Corsi. He just called in. And I'm going to introduce Dr. Corsi to you. He's currently holds active life and health licenses and also PNC licenses in New Jersey. He's a PhD that he got from Harvard and has been licensed in the insurance, Securities, National Association of Security Dealers for a while, part of FINRA. Dr. Corsi graduated magna cum laude with a BA in political science and economics from Case Western in Cleveland. 68, received his PhD from Harvard in 72. Still lives in Jersey, one of the most corrupt states in the United States, and he has been for years a frequent guest on radio and multiple television appearances on Fox News, Fox Business, CNN, MSNBC, as well as on national television. Welcome to the show, Jerome. How are you? Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you over the years. Hey, Jerome, well, I want to cut to the chase here because it's getting late. You just wrote a new book. You just released a new book over the weekend. Uh, Tell our listeners how they get it, how they can get a copy. And, I was telling them about it a little earlier about how you predicting that President Trump's going to win. And I really hope he does. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 3 days after the election. Okay. 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 Oh, yeah. We're tracking. Right. Mhm. Wow. That will be the second time that a Republican Congress presidential candidate has been given the election by the Supreme Court. I'm telling you. Mhm. Wow. You really think they're going to lose, huh? Hmm. Well, I certainly hope you're right. I tell you, I certainly hope you're right. Well, that's good. That's good to know. Okay. Where do they get the book again? Dewey's wins. Yeah. Yeah. President elect. Don't forget President. Don't forget President elect Biden. The office of the president elect. Well, Trump is certainly going there. Did you have a chance to see Rudy earlier today dealing with the Arizona legislators? He looked strong. He looked good. He it was funny. He was talking about all the uh, uh, illegal aliens who were allowed to vote. They have this thing in Arizona called federal only. So a person can vote in the presidential, congressional, Senate elections if they're able to produce a driver's license or a utility bill. And I think Arizona is one of those states that issues driver's license to illegals. So you have a whole lot of issues here instead of a birth certificate. Man, I laughed so hard when Giuliani was talking about how all of these people they had found uh, were not citizens. They weren't even born or still living. And some of them had been dead like 50 years. Yeah. So how does Trump lose the election? I mean, the voter fraud is just so obvious, and